Hello, and welcome to our lecture on vaccines and immunizations. We will talk about actual immunity. You might have played a video game or something and seen someone immune to certain things. They have immunity to things. That means it doesn't affect them at all, right? Like, in other words, they don't have a receptor that triggers a response to it, and it doesn't attach and colonize to them either, right? So uh, they are immune. And so here we can talk about vaccines and immunity. And we have four classes of immunity. You can have passive or active immunity, and within those you can either acquire it naturally or you can acquire it artificially. So a passive naturally acquired immunity is one that you would get from breast milk or through the placenta. A naturally acquired active immunity would be getting sick and not dying. An artificially acquired passive immunity uh, is when you actually harvest antibodies from somebody and you then put those into another person. So you didn't have to get infected or even mimic an infection, you just kind of gave them antibodies. Passive. And then you can either get a vaccine, which is active. You have to take the steps to go get an active, but it is artificial. So those are the types of immunity that we have, and we kind of talked about it a bit, but we're going to talk about it again. And we're going to talk about inoculation and variolation. Okay, variolation was first and was practiced for thousands of years, or 1,000 years at least, in the Far East, spread to Europe only after that, and Africa. And basically, you'd get a variolation through getting a dose of smallpox. Okay, and you'd get dosed with smallpox. Hopefully, you fight it off, and you uh, don't die. Okay, this was popular up until um, Washington's time, and he even famously did the same kind of thing during the Revolutionary War. Then Edward Jenner comes, okay, and he sees the cows and cowpox, and the milkmaids who had gotten cowpox are not getting smallpox, okay. So much so that in his famous painting he sees milkmaids in the background, okay, because he's attributing that to his success, or at least the artist is. And so he sees people with cowpox. Hey, I have an idea. Uh, let's. This must be helping them. Let's develop a vaccine through that, and that's what he does. He creates a vaccine for smallpox uh, through the use of seeing the milkmaids become immune. So immunizations work by stimulating the immune system to recognize and remember specific pathogens. Remember, we need those memory cells. Memory. That doesn't look like memory, but they typically contained weakened or inactivated forms of the pathogen or its antigens. Remember, that's active, right? Um, Otherwise, you can just get the antibodies. The immune response results in the production of antibodies and the development of memory cells for the future protection. Okay, so we need to elicit a response in order to make those memory cells that we saw in the last chapter. Okay, and that's why I left the immune system cells picture in the background here, because we're still dealing with immunity as one kind of topic, and this kind of rounds it all out. Vaccines was the title, though. We have a whole bunch of vaccines. Okay, vaccines are active artificial immunity, but in so we have different types of vaccines. Okay, We have live attenuated. Okay, this is that weakened strain of a whole pathogen. Okay, um, and as you can see here, the examples: measles, mumps, tuberculosis, the MMR vaccine, MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, TB vaccine, yellow fever vaccine, chickenpox vaccine. Now, um, all those are live attenuated. They were weakened from the whole pathogen. Inactivated, the whole pathogen is killed, heat, boiled, all that good stuff, and they leave the bits behind. Okay, and those bits are detected through receptors. Okay, that would normally detect those virulence factors. And now, influenza vaccine that you have to get every year, plague vaccine, rabies vaccine for your pets, all those are inactivated. I think you'd get the cholera vaccine if you're going to be traveling. I don't think you'd get it normally. You can get a subunit vaccine also, where you just take different subunits, little bits of them, instead of the whole thing and killing it and leaving all of them there. You take certain ones. Okay, this is going to lower your side effects. Okay, this is the anthrax. Another type of influenza vaccine, whooping cough vaccine, which you would get for your child. You wouldn't get it older. The papillomavirus HPV vaccine is a subunit vaccine as well. Okay. Toxoid vaccine is a vaccine against the toxins that's going to kill you rather than the bacteria. They're going to neutralize the toxin through humoral activity. Okay. And diphtheria toxin that we saw when we neutralized. We saw how the diphtheria toxin was neutralized. We can get that production of antibodies through a toxoid vaccine. And then we have conjugate vaccine, which are costly. And this is where you get meningitis vaccine. Okay, and remember, this is the one that is available in infants, and we could have had Olivia, our case study, immunized against meningitis at an early age, and that would have been a conjugate vaccine. Okay, and nowadays, in light of COVID, we actually have a new type of vaccine that's not on this list, but we have mRNA vaccines. And going all the way back to our cell chapter, the mRNA is responsible for making protein. Okay, but we can also put enough RNAs in the body that it basically triggers a response like if it was a pathogen, and we can start making antibodies in response to that mRNA. Okay, all right, and with that, we have the vaccine types, okay, and how they are used here. This is basically the table just spelled out. The inactivated vaccines contain all the pathogens. Okay, live attenuated are weakened forms. Okay, subunit is just specific components. Toxoid, we're going to use an inactivated toxin as a way of getting resistance. And mRNA vaccines contain genetic material that provide instructions to produce those viral proteins to give us those antibodies. Okay. Right. Here are the advantages and disadvantages. Inactivated vaccines typically require multiple doses or boosters. Live attenuated are long-lasting but may cause symptoms. Subunit may require harmful components in the actual vaccine to get it to work, or additional doses. And toxoids may require boosters as well, and mRNA vaccines, as you would imagine, are highly volatile, and so they require very specific storage conditions as their main disadvantage. So the idea behind it all is herd immunity. If we can inoculate or vaccinate enough people to get a herd immunity, right? Whereas greater than 80% or more have a immunity to it. And that is how we get herd immunity. And so this is going to help the individuals who do not or are unable to get vaccinated, right? Basically, vaccine prevents it from attaching in one person and preventing them from spreading it to another person just by them not getting it. Okay. Some immunizations don't do well with herd immunity, but that is like influenza, where you have to get it every year because the pathogen just evolves and mutates too quickly. Okay, and we have certain immunizations that you can get, and these are ones that you can get already: the Hep A and B, the MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella, polio vaccine. Luckily, this way we're not in an iron lung anymore, and this one did provide most herd immunity. Tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis. Pertussis is whooping cough, and that is Tdap, or tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. You can get the flu vaccine and you can get the COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, so those are some of the available vaccines that we have. We also have the HPV vaccine, or the human papillomavirus vaccine. And remember, human papillomavirus can actually cause ovarian cancer, and so the HPV vaccine basically helps prevent ovarian cancer through that. Okay. Finally, you might have acquired immunity through antibodies. If you didn't get the chickenpox vaccine and you got chickenpox instead as a kid, like people in the 80s and 90s, well, you can get instead checked for antibodies, in which they draw your blood and detect, see if you have the antibodies for the said disease. In which case, they could do an ELISA test like we saw in the lab, or they can do a Western blot, which is like a protein detection test, or they can do a rapid diagnostic test. Just drop some fluid on it with your blood. If the antibodies are in there, they will agglutinate and show it, and that's a rapid diagnostic test that you can use to do it. All right, that is our immunization chapter and vaccines, and basically you will want to know the available vaccines. You might encounter almost all of them on the final and on this exam. All right. Okay, and I will see you in immune disorders next.